I want to tell you about the last delivery I ever made. Not because it was dangerous. Not because anything happened to me. But because 2 weeks later, I got a message from the customer. And the customer, according to the council, according to the neighbours, according to every record I could find, had been dead for 11 years. That's where this ends. Let me tell you where it begins. I drove through a food courier app. Evening shifts mostly. Round here it's terraced streets, narrow lanes, the odd farm track out towards the marshes. Kent. Coastal. The kind of landscape where the sea mist comes in off the water and swallows the road signs whole, and you end up navigating by feel. Good money if you knew the routes, and I knew every inch of them. About 2 years before it happened, a standing order started appearing on my route. Same address every week, Wednesday evening, between 9 and 10. 1 black coffee, no milk, no sugar. Don't knock, leave it on the step. Thank you. That was the note, every single time, word for word. Never changed. Now, the first time I pulled up to that address, what did I see? I'll tell you. The address was a terraced house on the edge of the village, about 4 miles inland from the coast. Old street, late Victorian by the look of it, brick the colour of old blood in the dark. The kind of house you drive past and don't look at twice. The kind of house that's been there so long it's become part of the landscape. You stop seeing it. I pulled up, checked the app. Number 14, Gilham Terrace. Left the coffee on the step, tapped the app to confirm delivery. Drove away. 5 stars the next morning. Generous tip. I didn't think about it again. And here's the thing about the delivery trade. You're trained, genuinely, professionally trained, to love the customers who don't want to contact. The ones who say, leave it at the door and don't knock and thank you, that's all. Those are your best customers. They don't complain, they tip well, they don't drag you into their lives. So a standing order at a house I never needed to knock at, that was a red flag. That was the dream. For 2 years, that was just a Wednesday job. I never saw a single light on in that house. Not once in 2 years. But I told myself, shift worker, long hours, blackout curtains. You explain away the things that don't quite fit. You do it without thinking. It's just how people are built. It was only later that I started to wonder what else I'd explained away without looking. There's a moment in this story where everything changes, and it's not dramatic. It doesn't feel like anything at the time. It's just a dropped cup of coffee in the rain. But after that moment, nothing is the same. Here's what happened. February, a bad one. Rain coming in sideways off the coast. The kind of rain that gets in under your collar and stays there. I'm soaked through by the time I get to Gilham Terrace, running behind. I've got the coffee in one hand, and I'm trying to check the app with the other, and my foot catches the edge of the step and the cup goes down. Explodes. Coffee everywhere. All over the doorstep. I stand there for a second, just looking at it, and I make a decision. I'll knock. I'll explain. I'll go back to the diner and get another one. Simple, human, the right thing to do. I knocked twice. The door swung inward. Not dramatically, no creak, no groan, just open. The way a door does when the latch hasn't properly caught. The way a door does when no one is coming to answer it. because no one is home. And I looked inside. Bare floorboards, damp walls, a smell like old earth and closed rooms. No furniture, no lights, no sign of occupation. Dust on every surface, thick, undisturbed, not the dust of a week's absence, the dust of years. Cobwebs across the inside of the door frame, which meant that the door had not been opened from inside for a very long time. I told myself, wrong address, app glitch, some kind of system error. Someone else is getting the coffee and it's not this house at all and everything is fine. And then I looked down. The step was clean. Not the house, not the hall, just the step. The stone step where I left the coffee every Wednesday for 2 years. Wiped. Spotless. The only clean surface anywhere near that door. And just inside the hallway, just past the threshold where the cobweb started, lined up against the wall in careful rows, were the cups. My cups. 2 years of them, stacked neatly, base to rim, going soft and grey at the bottom of the pile where the oldest ones sat. Every coffee I had ever left on that step, still sealed, still full, not one of them opened, not one of them drunk. Something had been collecting them and keeping them, and it had never managed to drink a single one. I nearly left. I almost just walked back to the car and drove away and put it down to a strange night and never thought about it again. But I didn't, because I saw the floor. The dust was undisturbed everywhere except one place. One trail, one narrow, worn path in the dust, leading from the interior of the house, through the hallway, to the door. Not footprints, not the trace of boots or shoes, just a worn, smooth track. A path that had been used so many times it had pressed the dust flat, the way a path through long grass gets worn by years of passing. Going from inside to the door, and back, over and over. The same route, the same distance, again and again and again. Something had been making that journey, every Wednesday, coming to the door after I left, collecting the cup, carrying it back inside, setting it against the wall with all the others, for 2 years. And whatever it was, it had never once opened the door from inside. The cobwebs across the door frame were proof of that. It had never used that door. It had only ever approached it from the inside, stopped just short of the threshold, and retreated, as if the door itself was a boundary, and if crossing it was impossible. I did not run. I want to be clear about that. Some old animal part of me took over, the part that says, do not turn your back on the doorway, do not move fast, do not show that you're frightened. I walked backwards to the car, slowly, eyes on the open door. I drove home at exactly the speed limit, and I didn't sleep. I needed to know who lived in that house, or, more precisely, who used to. The next morning I drove back. In daylight, it looks different in daylight, smaller somehow, more ordinary, the kind of house you really could drive past and never noticed. I knocked on number 12. An elderly woman answered, retired, born on the street, lived there her whole life. I told her I made deliveries to number 14, regular customer. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, that house has been empty since Elsie died. Elsie, no surname offered. She said Elsie had lived there alone for decades, bit of a recluse towards the end, didn't let people in, kept herself to herself. The curtains were always drawn. And then, about 11 years ago, Elsie had passed away, quietly, alone in the house, in winter. Not found for several days. No family, the woman said. No one to take it on. Council eventually sealed it up. She paused. She said, "That's who you were delivering to?" I said I didn't know. I said the order was just there, on the app, every Wednesday. She looked at me. Elsie always had a coffee in the evening, she said. Wednesday was her night for it. She used to walk to the shop, right up until the end. I asked the woman, how did they find her when she died? She said the postman noticed. The step, she said, had been clean every day for years. Elsie kept it that way, obsessive about it she was. When the step wasn't clean anymore, the woman said, they knew. I thanked her and walked back to the car, and I sat there for a long time, thinking about the step that was kept clean for years after the house had been sealed. And the coffee cups inside, collected, cared for, lined up in rows. I deleted the app that night. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 3 days later, a text, unknown number, no area code I recognised. You dropped the last one. We were so close. Please don't stop now. The tip's gone up. That was all. I stared at it for a long time. Then I noticed the word. Not I. Not me. We. We were so close. I blocked the number, changed my own. Told myself it was a prank. Told myself someone had seen me on the street and was playing games. But I couldn't let go of the cups. 104 of them. I did the count later. 2 years of Wednesdays. All full, all sealed, all preserved. Set in careful rows against the wall of a house no living person had entered in over a decade. Whatever it wasn't drinking the coffee. So why was it still ordering it? I started looking into the house. Public records, old council documents, maps. The building had been in Elsie's family for 3 generations. Her grandmother had bought it after the war. The family had died out, one by one, until only Elsie was left. And then Elsie. There's something I found in old folklore research, British, very old, about what happens when a person dies alone in a house. The belief, and it's ancient, well documented in folk custom from all across these lands, is that the spirit lingers. Not because it wants to haunt, not because it's malevolent, but because it doesn't quite know it's gone. The old practices around death exist for a reason. Carrying the body out feet first, opening the windows, rearranging the furniture so the house looked unfamiliar. The body was taken out through a specific route, sometimes a back door, sometimes a specially made opening in the wall, and that route was sealed afterwards. The threshold was the boundary. The door was the rule. A spirit, the old belief went, cannot re-enter through the same threshold the body left by, but it can approach that threshold. It can come to the door. It can stand at the edge of where it's permitted to be and go no further. Elsie was taken out through the front door, where they finally found her 11 years ago. And since then, something in number 14 Gilman's Terrace had been coming to that door every Wednesday evening, standing at the threshold and going no further. So, the message. We were so close. I've thought about what that means. My best guess, and it's only a guess, is this. 104 cups, 2 years, every Wednesday. Whatever has been coming to that doorstep, it wasn't ordering coffee because it was thirsty. It was ordering coffee because Wednesday evening was what you did. Because after 11 years of standing at the inside of a locked threshold in a cold, empty house, the routine was the only thing left. The order was the memory. The cup on the step was the only contact it had with the outside world. And when I dropped the last one, when I broke the pattern, it noticed. We were so close. Close to what? I don't know. I have chosen not to know. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question I've been asking myself since that night. The house is real. The folklore is real. The belief that a spirit cannot cross the threshold it left by. That goes back centuries on these islands. But does that make what happened to me real? Or is there an explanation I haven't found yet? Because here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The cups were collected, carefully, gently. The same path, worn smooth in the dust over and over. Something was trying very hard to do something it could never quite manage. And I don't know whether that's terrifying or desperately, heartbreakingly sad. You decide. Investigate, decide, discover the truth.